Marcus Anderson sat alone at the corner table of Bella Rosa, one of the most elegant Italian restaurants in downtown Chicago, his fingers drumming nervously against the white tablecloth. The candlelight flickered softly, casting dancing shadows across his face as he checked his watch for what felt like the 100th time. 7:45 p.m. She was already 45 minutes late. He adjusted his navy blue blazer and straightened his tie, trying to calm the butterflies in his stomach. This was supposed to be the night that changed everything. His best friend Jake had set him up on this blind date, promising him that this woman was absolutely perfect for him. Jake had shown him just one photo, a beautiful woman with warm eyes and a bright smile, and Marcus had felt hopeful for the first time in years. The restaurant buzzed with life around him. Couples laughed over plates of pasta. Families celebrated birthdays with sparklers on tiramisu, and groups of friends clinked wine glasses in celebration. But Marcus felt like an island of loneliness in a sea of joy. The empty chair across from him seemed to mock him with every passing minute. A young waitress had been hovering nearby, refilling his water glass 3 times already. Each time she approached, Marcus felt a flicker of hope that maybe she was bringing a message, an explanation, anything, but each time she simply smiled sympathetically and walked away. Marcus pulled out his phone and checked it again. No messages, no calls, nothing. He had texted his date twice already, asking if she was okay, if she needed directions, but both messages remained unread. The little check marks on his screen stayed stubbornly gray. Maybe she's stuck in traffic, he muttered to himself. Trying to hold on to hope, Chicago traffic could be brutal, especially on a Friday evening, but deep down, a sinking feeling in his chest told him the truth he didn't want to accept. He was being stood up. Marcus thought back to the conversation with Jake 3 weeks ago. They had been at the gym, and Jake had been unusually excited about something. Man, I found the perfect woman for you, Jake had said, nearly dropping his dumbbell in enthusiasm. Jake, we've been through this, Marcus had replied, tired of his friend's endless matchmaking attempts. I'm not interested in being set up anymore. No, this time is different, Jake insisted. Her name is Rachel. She's a lawyer, smart as hell, loves jazz music just like you. And she's got this amazing sense of humor, plus, she's single and actually looking to meet someone genuine. Marcus had been skeptical, but something in Jake's voice had convinced him to give it one more try. After 3 years of failed relationships and disappointing dates, he had almost given up on finding love. At 32 years old, he was tired of the games, the ghosting, the superficial connections that led nowhere. But now, sitting alone in this fancy restaurant, Marcus felt like a fool for hoping. Again, if you're enjoying this story, please subscribe to hear what happens next. The journey is just beginning, and trust me, you won't want to miss where this goes. By 8:00 p.m., Marcus had made up his mind. He would wait until 8:15, and then he would leave. He flagged down a waiter, a young man with slicked back hair and a professional smile. "Excuse me," Marcus said, his voice barely hiding his embarrassment. "I think I'd like to order now." "Just for one?" The waiter nodded sympathetically. "Of course, sir. Take your time with the menu." As the waiter walked away, Marcus felt his face burn with shame. Everyone in the restaurant must have noticed by now. The man sitting alone at a table set for 2, the man whose date never showed up. He wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor and never return. That's when he noticed her. A black waitress was walking toward his table. She looked to be in her mid-20s, with her hair pulled back in a neat bun and kind eyes that seemed to hold an ocean of understanding. She wore the standard restaurant uniform, a crisp white shirt and black vest, but there was something about the way she carried herself that made her stand out. She had been watching him, Marcus realized, not in a pitying way, but with genuine concern as she approached his table. She had a slight smile on her face, the kind of smile that suggested she knew something he didn't. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly. Stopping beside his table, Marcus looked up, expecting her to ask for his order or offer him another glass of water. But instead she said something that made his world tilt on its axis. "I'm your date tonight." Marcus stared at her, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. For a moment he thought he had misheard her. The noise of the restaurant seemed to fade away, and all he could hear was the pounding of his own heartbeat in his ears. "I'm sorry, what?" he finally managed to say. The waitress, whose name tag read Jasmine, pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. Her movements were calm and deliberate, as if she had been planning this moment. I know this is confusing, Jasmine said, folding her hands on the table. And I promise I'll explain everything, but first, I need you to trust me for just a few minutes. Can you do that? Marcus felt like he was in a dream, or maybe a prank show. He glanced around the restaurant, half expecting to see cameras hidden in the corners, or Jake jumping out from behind a plant, yelling, "Gotcha!" But there was nothing, just the normal Friday night crowd enjoying their meals. I don't understand, Marcus said, shaking his head. Jake set me up with someone named Rachel. A lawyer. You're a waitress here. How can you be my date? Jasmine's smile faltered for just a moment, and Marcus saw something flicker in her eyes. Sadness, maybe, or regret. Rachel is my sister, Jasmine said quietly, and she was supposed to be here tonight. She was excited about meeting you. Marcus, she really was, but something happened. Something that made it impossible for her to come. Then why didn't she call me? Why didn't she text? Marcus asked, frustration creeping into his voice. I've been sitting here for almost an hour. Feeling like an idiot, I know, and I'm so sorry, Jasmine said, her voice filled with genuine remorse. Rachel's phone died and she couldn't reach you. She called me in a panic about 30 minutes ago. She was crying, Marcus. She felt terrible about standing you up. Marcus leaned back in his chair, trying to process this information. So where is she now? Is she okay? Jasmine took a deep breath. She's at the hospital. Marcus felt his anger dissolve instantly, replaced by concern. The hospital? What happened? Is she hurt? It's not Rachel, Jasmine explained quickly. It's our mother. She had a bad fall at her apartment, broke her hip. Rachel was on her way here when she got the call from the emergency room. She had to go straight to the hospital. Our mom is in surgery right now. The pieces started to fall into place. Marcus felt a wave of guilt wash over him. Here he had been, feeling sorry for himself, while Rachel was dealing with a family emergency. I'm so sorry, Marcus said sincerely. Please tell Rachel not to worry about tonight. Family comes first, always. I hope your mother is okay. Thank you, Jasmine said, and Marcus could see the relief in her eyes. But here's the thing, Marcus. Rachel felt so bad about missing this date. She really wanted to meet you. Jake has told her so much about you, and she was genuinely excited. So when she called me crying and apologizing, I told her I would come here and explain everything to you in person. You didn't have to do that, Marcus said, touched by the gesture. A phone call would have been fine. I know, Jasmine replied, but I'm not just here to deliver a message. I'm here because Rachel asked me to do something a little crazy, but also kind of sweet. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Jasmine leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with a mix of nervousness and excitement. Rachel asked me to have dinner with you. In her place, not as a date exactly, but as a stand-in. She didn't want you to eat alone after you had gone through all the trouble of getting dressed up and coming here. She thought maybe we could have a nice conversation. Get to know each other, and then I could tell her all about you. That way, when she finally meets you, she'll already feel like she knows you a little. Marcus was stunned. This was possibly the strangest situation he had ever found himself in. But as he looked at Jasmine, sitting across from him with hope written all over her face, he found himself smiling. That is crazy, Marcus admitted, but also, yeah, kinda sweet. So you'll do it? Jasmine asked. You'll have dinner with me as Rachel's representative? Marcus thought about it for exactly 3 seconds before nodding. You know what? Why not? This night is already so weird that we might as well lean into it. Plus I'm starving and it would be a shame to waste this reservation. Jasmine's face lit up with a brilliant smile, and Marcus felt something unexpected. A flutter of warmth in his chest. He pushed the feeling aside. This wasn't a date, this was just a favor. A kind gesture from one stranger to another. Great, Jasmine said, standing up from her chair. Let me just tell my manager I'm taking my break. I'll be right back. As Marcus watched Jasmine walk away, weaving through the tables with practiced ease, he couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Here he was, about to have dinner with his date's sister, a woman he had met 5 minutes ago. His mother would never believe this story. A few minutes later, Jasmine returned, sliding into the seat across from him. She had taken off her server's vest and let her hair down, falling in soft waves around her shoulders. The waitress, whose name tag read Jasmine, pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. Her movements were calm and deliberate, as if she had been planning this moment. I know this is confusing, Jasmine said, folding her hands on the table. And I promise I'll explain everything, but first, I need you to trust me for just a few minutes. Can you do that? Marcus felt like he was in a dream, or maybe a prank show. He glanced around the restaurant, half expecting to see cameras hidden in the corners or Jake jumping out from behind a plant yelling, "Gotcha!" But there was nothing. Just the normal Friday night crowd enjoying their meals. I don't understand, Marcus said, shaking his head. Jake set me up with someone named Rachel. A lawyer, you're a waitress here. How can you be my date? Jasmine's smile faltered for just a moment, and Marcus saw something flicker in her eyes. Sadness, maybe, or regret. Rachel is my sister, Jasmine said quietly, and she was supposed to be here tonight. She was excited about meeting you. Marcus, she really was, but something happened. Something that made it impossible for her to come. Then why didn't she call me? Why didn't she text? Marcus asked, frustration creeping into his voice. I've been sitting here for almost an hour. Feeling like an idiot, I know, and I'm so sorry, Jasmine said, her voice filled with genuine remorse. Rachel's phone died and she couldn't reach you. She called me in a panic about 30 minutes ago. She was crying, Marcus. She felt terrible about standing you up. Marcus leaned back in his chair, trying to process this information. So where is she now? Is she okay? Jasmine took a deep breath. She's at the hospital. Marcus felt his anger dissolve instantly, replaced by concern. The hospital? What happened? Is she hurt? It's not Rachel, Jasmine explained quickly. It's our mother. She had a bad fall at her apartment, broke her hip. Rachel was on her way here when she got the call from the emergency room. She had to go straight to the hospital. Our mom is in surgery right now. The pieces started to fall into place. Marcus felt a wave of guilt wash over him. Here he had been, feeling sorry for himself, while Rachel was dealing with a family emergency. I'm so sorry, Marcus said sincerely. Please tell Rachel not to worry about tonight. Family comes first, always. I hope your mother is okay. Thank you, Jasmine said, and Marcus could see the relief in her eyes. But here's the thing, Marcus. Rachel felt so bad about missing this date. She really wanted to meet you. Jake has told her so much about you, and she was genuinely excited. So when she called me crying and apologizing, I told her I would come here and explain everything to you in person. You didn't have to do that, Marcus said. Touched by the gesture, a phone call would have been fine. I know, Jasmine replied. But I'm not just here to deliver a message. I'm here because Rachel asked me to do something. Something a little crazy, but also kind of sweet. Marcus raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Jasmine leaned forward, her eyes sparkling with a mix of nervousness and excitement. Rachel asked me to have dinner with you. In her place, not as a date exactly, but as a stand-in. She didn't want you to eat alone after you had gone through all the trouble of getting dressed up and coming here. She thought maybe we could have a nice conversation, get to know each other, and then I could tell her all about you. That way, when she finally meets you, she'll already feel like she knows you a little. Marcus was stunned. This was possibly the strangest situation he had ever found himself in. But as he looked at Jasmine, sitting across from him with hope written all over her face, he found himself smiling. That is crazy, Marcus admitted, but also, yeah. Kinda sweet, so you'll do it? Jasmine asked. You'll have dinner with me as Rachel's representative? Marcus thought about it for exactly 3 seconds before nodding. You know what? Why not? This night is already so weird that we might as well lean into it. Plus, I'm starving and it would be a shame to waste this reservation. Jasmine's face lit up with a brilliant smile, and Marcus felt something unexpected, a flutter of warmth in his chest. He pushed the feeling aside. This wasn't a date, this was just a favor. A kind gesture from one stranger to another. Great, Jasmine said, standing up from her chair. Let me just tell my manager I'm taking my break. I'll be right back. As Marcus watched Jasmine walk away, weaving through the tables with practiced ease, he couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Here he was, about to have dinner with his date's sister, a woman he had met 5 minutes ago. His mother would never believe this story. A few minutes later, Jasmine returned, sliding into the seat across from him. She had taken off her server's vest and let her hair down, falling in soft waves around her shoulders. Marcus noticed for the first time that she was quite beautiful, in a different way than Rachel's photo had suggested. There was something genuine about her, something real and unpolished that he found refreshing. Okay, Jasmine said, picking up the menu. Rachel told me to order for her. She said you should get to know her taste in food. So I'm going to order exactly what she would have ordered, deal? Deal, Marcus agreed. finding himself genuinely curious as they began to talk. The awkwardness of the situation slowly melted away. Jasmine told him about Rachel, how she was a passionate lawyer who fought for underprivileged families, how she loved old jazz records and had a collection of over 200 vinyl albums, how she volunteered at an animal shelter every Sunday morning. But as the evening went on, Marcus found himself less interested in hearing about Rachel and more interested in learning about Jasmine herself. He discovered that she was working as a waitress while finishing her degree in social work, that she had dreams of opening a community center for at-risk youth, that she had an infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. The food arrived and they ate slowly, savoring each bite and each moment of conversation. Marcus told Jasmine about his work as a high school music teacher, about his love for jazz that had started when his grandfather gave him a Louis Armstrong record when he was 8 years old, about his dream of one day conducting his own orchestra. As the hours slipped by, Marcus realized something surprising. He was having the best time he'd had in years. The conversation flowed naturally. Punctuated by laughter and moments of comfortable silence, it felt easy, genuine, real. When the check finally came, Marcus insisted on paying. "This was supposed to be my date with Rachel," he said with a smile. "Even though she couldn't make it, I'm still treating." "Thank you," Jasmine said softly. "This was really nice, Marcus. I can see why Rachel was excited to meet you. You're a good guy." As they stood to leave, Marcus felt a strange reluctance to say goodbye. He knew he would probably see Rachel eventually, have a proper date with her, but somehow, that thought didn't excite him the way it should have. "Tell Rachel I hope her mother recovers quickly," Marcus said as they walked toward the restaurant's exit. "And tell her I'm looking forward to meeting her. For real this time." "I will," Jasmine promised. They stood outside the restaurant, the cool night air surrounding them. Marcus knew he should say goodbye, get in his car, and drive home. But his feet seemed rooted to the spot. "Jasmine," he said suddenly, "would you maybe want to grab coffee sometime? Not as Rachel's representative, just as yourself. I'd like to get to know you better." Jasmine's eyes widened with surprise, and for a moment Marcus worried he had overstepped. But then she smiled, that same brilliant smile that had made his heart flutter earlier in the evening. "I'd like that," she said softly. "I'd like that a lot." As Marcus drove home that night, his head was spinning with thoughts and emotions he couldn't quite name. He had gone to that restaurant expecting to meet Rachel, his perfect match according to Jake. Instead, he had met Jasmine, someone he hadn't been looking for but who had somehow found him anyway. He didn't know what would happen next. He didn't know how Rachel would feel when she found out, or what Jake would say, or how this complicated situation would unfold. But as he pulled into his driveway and turned off the engine, Marcus found himself smiling sometimes, he thought. The best things in life are the ones you never see coming. 3 days had passed since that unforgettable evening at Bella Rosa, and Marcus found himself unable to stop thinking about it. He sat in his small apartment, surrounded by stacks of sheet music and ungraded essays from his students, but his mind was miles away, replaying every moment of that strange, wonderful night. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. Startling him out of his reverie, it was a text from Jake. "Dude, Rachel told me what happened with her mom. That's rough, but hey, good news. She wants to reschedule. How about next Friday?" Marcus stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. He should have been excited, thrilled even. This was what he had been waiting for, a chance to finally meet Rachel. The woman Jake had promised was perfect for him. But instead, all he could think about was Jasmine's laugh. The way her eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams, the comfortable silence they had shared over tiramisu. He typed back a non-committal response. "Yeah, sounds good. Let me check my schedule." Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Marcus's heart skipped a beat as he opened it. "Hi Marcus, it's Jasmine. I got your number from Rachel. I hope that's okay. I wanted to let you know that my mom is doing much better. She's recovering well from the surgery. Thank you for being so understanding that night." Marcus smiled, his fingers flying across the screen. "I'm so glad to hear that. Tell her I'm sending good thoughts her way, and of course it's okay that you texted. I was actually hoping you would." The 3 dots appeared. Indicating Jasmine was typing, Marcus waited, his pulse quickening with anticipation. "About that coffee you mentioned, are you free tomorrow afternoon? There's this great little cafe near the university. They make the best cappuccino in the city." "I'm free," Marcus replied instantly. Then worried he seemed too eager, he added, "What time works for you? How about 2 p.m.? It's called the Daily Grind. On 5th and Monroe. Perfect, I'll see you there." Marcus set his phone down and leaned back against the couch, a grin spreading across his face. But the smile faded as reality set in. What was he doing? He was supposed to be interested in Rachel, not her sister. This was messy, complicated, potentially disastrous, but even as these thoughts swirled through his mind, Marcus couldn't deny the excitement bubbling up inside him. There was something about Jasmine, something magnetic and genuine that drew him in. He had to explore this feeling. Even if it led to complications, the next afternoon, Marcus arrived at the Daily Grind 15 minutes early. The cafe was exactly as he had imagined it, cozy and inviting with mismatched furniture, local artwork on the walls, and the rich aroma of freshly ground coffee beans filling the air. Students hunched over laptops in corners, elderly couples shared newspapers, and a barista with purple hair sang along to the indie music playing softly in the background. Marcus ordered a black coffee and chose a table by the window, watching people hurry past on the sidewalk outside. His leg bounced nervously under the table, and he caught himself checking his reflection in the window every few seconds. He had changed his outfit 3 times before leaving his apartment, finally settling on a casual but neat look. Dark jeans and a forest green sweater. At exactly 2 p.m., the bell above the cafe door chimed, and Jasmine walked in. She wore a burgundy cardigan over a simple white dress, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. When her eyes found Marcus, her face broke into that radiant smile that had haunted his thoughts for 3 days. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Sorry, I'm not late, am I? I know I'm right on time, but I always feel like I should be early." "You're perfect," Marcus said, then immediately felt his face flush. "I mean, your timing is perfect, not that you're not, I mean." He stopped himself, laughing at his own awkwardness. "I'm going to stop talking now." Jasmine laughed, a sound that made everything feel lighter. "It's okay. I know what you meant. Let me grab a coffee and then we can talk." While she was at the counter, Marcus tried to calm his racing heart. He watched her chat easily with the barista, making the purple-haired girl laugh at something she said. Jasmine had this effortless way of connecting with people, making them feel seen and valued. It was a gift, Marcus thought, and a rare one. She returned with a large cappuccino topped with an intricate foam design, a perfect leaf. "So," Jasmine said, wrapping her hands around the warm cup. "I have a confession to make." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "Okay." "That night at the restaurant," Jasmine began, looking down at her coffee, "when I sat down at your table, I told you that Rachel had asked me to have dinner with you, and that was true. She did ask me to explain what happened and to make sure you weren't upset." "But," Marcus prompted, sensing there was more to the story. Jasmine looked up, meeting his eyes. "But the part about her asking me to stay and have dinner with you, to be her representative, and that wasn't entirely accurate. She just wanted me to deliver the message and apologize. The idea to stay for dinner, that was mine." Marcus felt a spark of hope ignite in his chest. "Why did you stay?" "Because," Jasmine said, her voice soft but steady, "when I saw you sitting there alone, looking so disappointed and hurt, I felt something. I don't know how to explain it. It was like I was drawn to you, like I needed to know who you were. And I know that sounds crazy because we were strangers, and you were supposed to be there for my sister, but I couldn't help myself." The confession hung in the air between them. Marcus could hear his own breathing, the clink of coffee cups around them, the murmur of conversation from other tables, but in that moment, nothing else mattered except Jasmine's words and the vulnerability in her eyes. "I'm glad you stayed," Marcus said finally. "That night with you, it was the most genuine, real connection I've felt in years, maybe ever." Jasmine's eyes glistened. "Really?" "Really," Marcus confirmed. "And I need to be honest with you, too. When I texted you about coffee, I told myself it was just friendly, innocent, but the truth is, I wanted to see you again because I couldn't stop thinking about you. Not as Rachel's sister, but as Jasmine, the woman who made me laugh, who listened to my rambling stories about my students, who shared her dreams with me like we were old friends." "What are we going to do?" Jasmine asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is so complicated. Rachel is my sister. She was supposed to meet you. She likes you based on everything Jake told her. How can I? How can you what? Marcus asked gently. How can I feel this way about someone who was meant for my sister? Jasmine finished, a tear sliding down her cheek. Marcus reached across the table, gently taking her hand. Her skin was warm, and he felt a jolt of electricity at the contact. I don't have all the answers, Marcus admitted, but I know that feelings can't be forced, and connections like this don't come along every day. Maybe Rachel and I would have hit it off. Maybe we wouldn't have, we'll never know. But what I do know is that what happened between us that night at the restaurant, it wasn't random or meaningless, it meant something. Jasmine squeezed his hand. I talked to Rachel last night. I didn't tell her about these feelings, but I told her that I had dinner with you, that I found you interesting and kind. She was actually happy about it. She said it made her feel better knowing that her sister had kept you company. She has no idea that we connected. Marcus finished. Yes, Jasmine nodded. And I feel terrible. Like I'm betraying her. Rachel has always been there for me. When our dad left, when I struggled in school, when I didn't know if I could afford college, she helped me through everything. She's not just my sister. She's my best friend. How can I do this to her? Marcus understood the weight of Jasmine's guilt. He had siblings too. A younger brother he would do anything for. The thought of hurting him, even unintentionally, made his chest ache. Maybe we should tell her, Marcus suggested. Maybe we should be honest about what's happening before it goes any further. She deserves to know the truth. Jasmine pulled her hand back, wrapping both arms around herself. I'm scared, she admitted. What if she hates me? What if this ruins our relationship? What if I'm throwing away my bond with my sister for something that might not even work out between us? The question hung heavy in the air. Marcus understood her fear because he felt it too. What if they took this risk and it ended in heartbreak? What if pursuing this connection destroyed Jasmine's relationship with her sister and left them both with nothing but regret? But what if they didn't take the risk? What if they walked away from this feeling, this rare and beautiful connection, just to avoid potential pain? Would that be any better? Can I tell you something? Marcus said, leaning forward. When I was in college, I had an opportunity to audition for a prestigious music program. It was a long shot, and I was terrified of failing. So you know what I did? I didn't audition. I let the fear of rejection stop me from even trying. And I've regretted it every single day since. Jasmine listened intently, her eyes fixed on his face. I learned something from that experience. Marcus continued. Sometimes the things we don't do, the chances we don't take, those hurt more than any failure ever could. I don't want to look back on this moment years from now and wonder what if. I don't want that for you either. But it's not just about us. Jasmine protested. Rachel is involved in this. We can't just ignore her feelings, you're right. Marcus agreed. Which is why we need to talk to her soon before this goes any further. We owe her honesty even if it's uncomfortable. Jasmine was quiet for a long moment, staring into her cappuccino as if the foam might hold answers. Finally, she looked up. Okay, she said, her voice stronger now. We'll talk to her together. I'll set up a time for all three of us to meet. It won't be easy, but you're right, she deserves the truth. Marcus felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. This was the right thing to do, but that didn't make it any less terrifying. They spent the rest of the afternoon talking, carefully avoiding the heavy topic they had just addressed. Instead, they shared lighter stories. Marcus told her about his most challenging student, a talented but stubborn trumpet player who refused to practice scales. Jasmine shared tales from her shifts at the restaurant, the demanding customers, the sweet elderly couple who came in every Tuesday and always left generous tips. As the afternoon stretched into early evening, the cafe began to empty. Students packed up their laptops. Couples left hand in hand, and the barista started wiping down tables. We should probably go, Jasmine said reluctantly. They're going to kick us out soon. Yeah, Marcus agreed, though he didn't want the afternoon to end. Outside the cafe, they stood on the sidewalk, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The city hummed around them, cars passing, people hurrying to wherever they needed to be. Thank you for meeting me, Jasmine said, and for understanding, for being willing to do this the right way. Thank you for being honest, Marcus replied. That took courage. They stood there for a moment, neither wanting to be the first to leave. Finally, Jasmine stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Marcus in a brief hug. He breathed in the scent of her perfume, something floral and light, and felt his heart ache with the bittersweetness of the moment. "I'll call Rachel tonight," Jasmine promised, pulling back. "I'll see when she can meet with us. Maybe this weekend? Whenever she's ready," Marcus said. "We'll figure this out together." Jasmine nodded, then turned and walked toward the bus stop. Marcus watched her go, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. When she reached the corner, she turned back and waved. He waved back, a sad smile on his face. As Marcus drove home, his mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Anxiety about the upcoming conversation with Rachel, excitement about exploring whatever this was with Jasmine, guilt about the situation, hope for the future. His phone rang. Jake's name flashing on the screen. Marcus debated letting it go to voicemail, but ultimately answered, "Hey man." Jake's voice boomed through the speaker. "So I was talking to Rachel today. She's really excited about rescheduling your date. I think you two are going to hit it off. She's exactly your type." Marcus's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "Jake?" "About that, there's something I need to tell you." "What's up?" "It's complicated," Marcus began, trying to find the right words. "But I think I need to cancel that date with Rachel. Something unexpected happened, and I need to sort it out before I can think about dating anyone." There was a pause on the other end. "Dude, what happened? Did you meet someone else?" "Sort of," Marcus admitted. "I'll explain everything soon. I promise, but right now I need to handle this situation carefully. I don't want to hurt anyone." "Okay," Jake said slowly, clearly confused. "But you're being weird, you know that, right?" "I know," Marcus laughed despite himself, "and I'm sorry for being cryptic. Just trust me on this, I'll fill you in when I can." After hanging up, Marcus felt exhausted. The emotional weight of the afternoon, combined with the looming conversation with Rachel, made him want to crawl into bed and sleep for a week. But as he pulled into his parking spot and turned off the engine, Marcus felt something else too, a strange sense of rightness. As complicated and messy as this situation was, he knew he was on the right path. He was being honest, taking responsibility for his feelings, and treating everyone involved with respect that night. As Marcus lay in bed staring at the ceiling, his phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. "I talked to Rachel. She can meet us on Sunday afternoon at her apartment. She sounded confused but agreed to hear us out." "I'm terrified," Marcus typed back. "Me too. But we're doing the right thing. I'll be there with you. We'll face this together, thank you," came Jasmine's reply, followed by a simple heart emoji. Marcus smiled at his phone, then set it on his nightstand. Sunday was 2 days away. 2 days until they would have to face Rachel, to explain the inexplicable, to risk everything for a connection that defied logic and reason. As he closed his eyes, Marcus thought about fate, about chance encounters and unexpected turns. He had walked into that restaurant expecting one thing and found something completely different. Life had a way of surprising you, of leading you down paths you never saw coming. Whatever happened on Sunday, Marcus knew one thing for certain: he would never forget the night. A blind date stood him up, and a stranger became the person he couldn't stop thinking about. Sometimes he realized the wrong person not showing up was exactly what needed to happen for the right person to walk into your life. Sunday morning arrived with gray clouds hanging low over Chicago. Threatening rain. Marcus woke up with knots in his stomach, twisting tighter with each passing hour. He had barely slept, tossing and turning as he rehearsed different versions of the conversation they were about to have with Rachel. None of them ended well in his imagination. He showered, shaved, and stood in front of his closet for 20 minutes trying to decide what to wear. What does one wear to confess feelings for someone's sister? Eventually, he settled on simple khaki pants and a button-down shirt. Respectful but not overly formal. His phone buzzed at noon. Jasmine's message read, "Meeting Rachel at 3 p.m. Her address is 412 Maple Grove. Apartment 6B. I'm already nervous enough to be sick. Please tell me we're doing the right thing." Marcus replied immediately. "We are. Honesty is always the right choice, even when it's hard. I'll pick you up at 2:30. We'll go together. Thank you." Jasmine responded, "I don't think I could do this alone." Marcus spent the next hour pacing his apartment, his jazz records playing softly in the background. Miles Davis seemed appropriate for such a melancholy day. He tried to distract himself by grading papers, but he kept reading the same sentence over and over without comprehending a single word. At 2:15, he grabbed his keys and headed out. The drive to Jasmine's place took him through neighborhoods he didn't usually visit, past corner stores with hand-painted signs, children playing basketball in driveways, and elderly folks sitting on porches despite the threatening weather. Jasmine lived in a modest apartment building on the east side. Marcus texted her when he arrived, and within moments she emerged from the entrance. She wore a simple navy dress and had her hair down, falling in soft waves around her shoulders. But it was her face that struck Marcus most. She looked pale, worried. Like someone heading to their own execution, she slid into the passenger seat without a word. Buckling her seatbelt with trembling hands, "Hey," Marcus said softly, reaching over to give her hand a reassuring squeeze. "We've got this." Jasmine nodded but didn't speak. Her silence worried Marcus more than tears would have. They drove through the city streets, the radio playing quietly, neither of them attempting conversation. What was there to say that they hadn't already discussed? They both knew what needed to happen. That didn't make it any easier. Rachel's apartment building was in a nicer part of town, a modern complex with a doorman and security cameras. Marcus found a parking spot on the street and they sat there for a moment, neither making a move to get out of the car. "What if she never forgives me?" Jasmine finally spoke, her voice cracking. "What if I lose my sister over this?" Marcus turned to face her fully. "Jasmine, look at me." She did, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Rachel loves you. That much is obvious from everything you've told me about her. Yes, this is going to hurt her. And yes, she's going to be upset, but real love, the kind between sisters who have been through what you two have been through, that doesn't just disappear. It bends, it stretches, but it doesn't break." "You don't know that," Jasmine whispered. "You're right." "I don't," Marcus admitted, "but I believe it. And I believe that honesty, even painful honesty, is better than living a lie. If we pretended this didn't happen, if I went through with dating Rachel while feeling this way about you, that would hurt her so much more in the long run." Jasmine wiped at her eyes, careful not to smudge her makeup. "When did you become so wise?" "I'm not wise," Marcus said with a sad smile. "I'm just someone who's made enough mistakes to recognize when something feels right. And this, as scary as it is, feels right." They finally exited the car and walked toward the building entrance. The doorman greeted them with a professional nod and directed them to the elevators. As they rode up to the 6th floor, Marcus noticed Jasmine's hands were clenched into fists. Her knuckles white. Apartment 6B was at the end of a long hallway. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears as Jasmine raised her hand to knock. Before her knuckles could connect with the door, it swung open. Rachel stood in the doorway, and Marcus got his first real look at the woman he was supposed to have fallen for. She was beautiful, just as her photo had suggested, with the same warm brown eyes as Jasmine but different features, sharper cheekbones, a more angular face. She wore casual clothes, jeans, and a loose sweater, and her expression was a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Jasmine," Rachel said, immediately pulling her sister into a hug. "Come in, both of you." Her eyes landed on Marcus. "You must be Marcus. I'm so sorry about what happened on Friday. My mom, the hospital, everything was chaos." "Please don't apologize," Marcus said quickly. "I'm just glad your mother is recovering well." "Thank you," Rachel said, stepping back to let them enter. "She's doing much better, already complaining about the hospital food, which the doctors say is a good sign." The apartment was exactly what Marcus would have expected from a successful lawyer. Tastefully decorated with modern furniture, bookshelves lined with legal texts and novels, framed degrees on the walls. A large window overlooked the city, currently showing those threatening gray clouds moving closer. "Please, sit down." Rachel gestured to the couch. "Can I get either of you something to drink? Coffee, tea, water?" "Water would be great," Jasmine said, her voice barely steady. "Same for me," Marcus added. Rachel disappeared into the kitchen and Marcus and Jasmine sat on the couch, leaving space between them. They could hear Rachel moving around, the sound of glasses clinking, water running. When she returned, she handed them each a glass and settled into the armchair across from them. "So," Rachel said, folding her hands in her lap, "Jasmine said you both needed to talk to me about something important." She sounded serious on the phone, which isn't like her. "You're worrying me." Jasmine opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She looked at Marcus, panic in her eyes. He gave her an encouraging nod. "Rachel," Jasmine began, her voice shaking, "I need to tell you something, and it's going to be hard to hear. But I need you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen, and I would never intentionally hurt you." Rachel's expression shifted, the concern deepening. Okay, you're really scaring me now. Just tell me what's going on. Jasmine took a deep breath. That night at the restaurant, when I went to explain to Marcus why you couldn't make it, something unexpected happened. We talked, and it wasn't just polite conversation. We connected, really connected, in a way that I wasn't expecting and definitely wasn't looking for. Rachel's eyes widened slightly, her gaze moving from Jasmine to Marcus and back again. I stayed for dinner, Jasmine continued, and I told you that. But what I didn't tell you was how much I enjoyed it. How much I enjoyed talking to him, getting to know him, and then we met again on Friday for coffee. And those feelings only got stronger. The silence that followed was deafening. Rachel sat perfectly still, processing the information. Her face was unreadable, which somehow made it worse than if she had started yelling. Rachel, Marcus spoke up. I want you to know that I take full responsibility for my part in this. When I agreed to the blind date, I was genuinely interested in meeting you. But then circumstances changed and I met Jasmine instead. What happened between us wasn't planned and it certainly wasn't meant to hurt you. So let me get this straight, Rachel finally said, her voice eerily calm. You two met at the restaurant, felt some kind of connection, and now you're what? Together? Dating? While I was at the hospital with my mother, worrying about her and feeling terrible about standing Marcus up, you two were falling for each other? It's not like that, Jasmine protested, tears now flowing freely down her face. We haven't done anything wrong, we haven't even kissed. We came here today specifically to be honest with you before anything else could happen. We knew we couldn't move forward without telling you the truth. Rachel stood up abruptly, walking to the window and staring out at the city. Marcus and Jasmine remained on the couch waiting. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Do you know what the worst part is? Rachel said finally, still facing the window. It's not even that you two have feelings for each other. It's that I actually understand it. Both Marcus and Jasmine looked up in surprise. Rachel turned around and Marcus could see tears in her eyes too. Jasmine, do you think I don't know you? You're my little sister. I've watched you your entire life. I know when you're truly happy, and I know when you're just going through the motions. That night when you called me after having dinner with Marcus, I could hear something in your voice, something I hadn't heard in a long time. Joy, real, genuine joy, Rachel, Jasmine started. But her sister held up a hand. Let me finish, Rachel said. I was excited to meet Marcus because Jake had built him up as this perfect guy. But the truth is, I didn't know him. I'd never spoken to him, never even texted him. All I had was Jake's word and one photo. So when I couldn't make it to the restaurant, I genuinely felt bad about standing him up. But I wasn't heartbroken, I wasn't devastated. Because you can't lose something you never had. Marcus felt a flicker of hope. But he was afraid to let it grow. But you, Jasmine, Rachel continued, walking back toward the couch, you actually met him. You talked to him, spent time with him, and from what I can see, he feels the same way about you. Am I right, Marcus? Marcus nodded. I do. I know this situation is unconventional and complicated, but my feelings for Jasmine are real. Rachel sat back down in the armchair, but this time she leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. Here's what I need you both to understand. Yes, I'm hurt. Not because I had deep feelings for Marcus, because I didn't, but because this situation makes me feel like I was some kind of obstacle standing in the way of something that was meant to happen. It makes me feel foolish. You're not foolish, Jasmine said immediately. And you weren't an obstacle. You had every right to be excited about this date. This whole situation is just, it's fate, Marcus offered quietly. Rachel looked at him, really looked at him for the first time since they'd started this conversation. You really believe that? In fate? I believe that sometimes things happen that we can't explain or plan for, Marcus said carefully. I believe that connections between people aren't always logical or convenient. I didn't want to develop feelings for your sister, Rachel. If I could have controlled it, I would have waited to meet you properly, given us a fair chance. But the heart doesn't work that way. Rachel was quiet again, her eyes moving between Marcus and Jasmine. Finally, she let out a long, exhausted sigh. I need time, she said. I need time to process this, to wrap my head around it. I'm not saying I'm okay with it, but I'm also not saying I'm not okay with it. I just need space to figure out how I feel. Of course, Jasmine said quickly, standing up. Take all the time you need. And Rachel, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. You mean everything to me? Rachel stood as well, and the two sisters embraced, both of them crying now. Marcus stood awkwardly to the side, unsure whether he should say something or remain silent. When they pulled apart, Rachel wiped her eyes and turned to Marcus. "Take care of her," she said simply. "Jasmine has been through a lot in her life. She deserves someone who will treat her well. If you're that person, then I'll learn to accept this. But if you hurt her, you'll have me to answer to, lawyer or not. I'm still a big sister." "I understand," Marcus said, "and I promise I'll do everything I can to make her happy." As Marcus and Jasmine left the apartment and walked back to the car, neither spoke. They were both emotionally drained, exhausted from the intensity of the conversation. But there was also a sense of relief. They had done it, they had been honest, and while Rachel needed time, she hadn't completely rejected them. Once they were back in the car, Jasmine finally broke down completely. Sobs racked her body as weeks of stress and worry poured out. Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her as she cried. "It's going to be okay," he whispered into her hair. "She just needs time. She'll come around." "I hope you're right," Jasmine said between sobs. "I can't lose her, Marcus, I can't." "You won't," Marcus assured her, though he wasn't entirely certain himself. "Rachel loves you. That was clear in everything she said. She's hurt right now, but love doesn't disappear because of hurt feelings. It endures." They sat in the car for a long time, holding each other as the gray clouds finally opened up and rain began to fall. People on the sidewalk rushed for cover. Umbrellas popped open, and the city took on that particular smell that comes with rainfall, earth and concrete mixing together. Eventually, Jasmine pulled back, wiping her face with her hands. "I must look terrible," she said with a weak laugh. "You look beautiful," Marcus said honestly, and he meant it even with red eyes and smudged makeup. She was beautiful to him. "What do we do now?" Jasmine asked. "Now," Marcus said, starting the car, "we give Rachel the space she asked for, and we take things slow one day at a time. We don't rush anything, we let this develop naturally, without pressure." "That sounds good," Jasmine agreed. "But Marcus, there's something else you need to know. Something about that night at the restaurant that I haven't told you yet." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What is it?" Jasmine bit her lip, hesitating. "The setup. Your blind date with Rachel, it wasn't as random as you think. Jake didn't just decide on a whim to set you two up. There was a reason. A specific reason that involves all of us. I don't understand," Marcus said. Confused, "Jake is Rachel's ex-boyfriend," Jasmine revealed, watching Marcus's face carefully for his reaction. "They dated for 2 years in college. It was serious, they almost got engaged, but it didn't work out. They broke up 5 years ago and have remained friends. Good friends when Jake told Rachel about you, about this amazing music teacher he worked with at the community center. Rachel was interested, but not just because of your qualities. She was interested because Jake's judgment meant something to her. Because despite their breakup, she still trusted him." Marcus's mind reeled. "Wait, Jake and Rachel dated? And he never mentioned this to me? He just set me up with his ex-girlfriend without saying anything? He didn't tell you because he knew you'd overthink it," Jasmine explained. "Jake genuinely thought you and Rachel would be a good match. His feelings for her are completely platonic now. He's been with his girlfriend Sarah for 3 years, but he wanted Rachel to find someone good, someone worthy of her, and he thought that person was you." "This is insane," Marcus said, running his hands through his hair. "So Jake, my friend, set me up with his ex, who then couldn't make the date. So her sister, you, showed up instead. And now you and I have feelings for each other. This sounds like a soap opera." "I know," Jasmine said. "And there's more. Jake doesn't know yet about us," Rachel said she would tell him. "She thinks he deserves to hear it from her. Not from us, they're meeting for lunch tomorrow." "Great," Marcus said sarcastically. "So I get to wait in suspense to find out if my best friend is going to hate me for falling for his ex-girlfriend's sister. This just keeps getting better." Despite the stress of the situation, Jasmine laughed. "When you put it that way, it does sound ridiculous." Marcus started laughing too, and soon they were both laughing so hard they could barely breathe. It was the kind of laughter that comes from emotional exhaustion, from stress release, from the absurdity of life itself. When they finally calmed down, Marcus reached over and took Jasmine's hand. "You know what? I don't care how complicated this is. I don't care about the tangled web of connections and history. All I care about is that I met you, and for whatever reason, the universe decided we should know each other, So we're going to figure this out, all of it. Together? Jasmine squeezed his hand. Together, she agreed. As Marcus drove Jasmine home through the rain-soaked streets, he thought about how different his life had become in just 1 week. 7 days ago, he had been a lonely music teacher going through the motions, hoping a blind date might lead to something meaningful. Now he was navigating the most complicated relationship situation of his life. But somehow he had never felt more alive. When they reached Jasmine's apartment, she leaned over and kissed his cheek softly. "Thank you," she whispered. "For today, for everything. For being brave enough to do this the right way. Call me later?" Marcus asked. "Definitely," Jasmine promised. Then stepped out into the rain. Marcus watched her run to her building entrance. And he drove home with a strange mixture of anxiety and contentment. Tomorrow, Jake would find out. And Marcus had no idea how his friend would react. But tonight, he allowed himself to simply feel grateful. Grateful for unexpected connections, for honest conversations, for the courage to follow his heart even when logic said he shouldn't. As he pulled into his parking spot and turned off the engine, his phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Thank you both for being honest with me. I'm still processing, but I wanted you to know that I appreciate your courage. Take care of my sister, Marcus. She deserves the world." Marcus smiled at the screen, typing back a simple, "I will. Thank you for understanding." The rain continued to fall as Marcus made his way to his apartment, but somehow the weather didn't seem quite so gloomy anymore. There was hope now, fragile and uncertain. But hope nonetheless. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, its own conversations and revelations, but for now, Marcus allowed himself to believe that everything might just work out after all. Monday morning dawned bright and clear. The storm from the previous day having washed the city clean, Marcus woke up earlier than usual, his mind already racing with thoughts of what Jake's reaction would be when Rachel told him everything. He had considered calling Jake himself, beating Rachel to the punch, but ultimately decided that she deserved to tell the story her way. After all, this affected her just as much as it affected anyone else. Marcus went through his morning routine on autopilot. Shower, coffee, checking his lesson plans for the day. But his focus was elsewhere. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart jumped, expecting either an angry message from Jake or an update from Jasmine. Instead, it was just spam emails and notifications from apps he barely used. By the time Marcus arrived at Lincoln High School, where he taught music to teenagers who were more interested in their phones than in Bach, he was a bundle of nerves. The school hallways smelled like they always did, a combination of floor cleaner, cafeteria food, and teenage desperation. Students rushed past him, some greeting him with casual, "Hey, Mr. Anderson," while others were too absorbed in their own dramas to notice him. His first class of the day was music theory with the sophomores, usually his favorite group because they actually seemed to care about learning. Today, however, he struggled to focus. He caught himself staring out the window multiple times, his mind wandering to Jasmine, to Rachel, to the complicated web they had all become entangled in. "Mr. Anderson," a voice broke through his thoughts. Marcus blinked, focusing on the classroom. A student named Emma was raising her hand, her expression concerned. "Yes, Emma?" Marcus responded, trying to sound present. "Are you okay?" "You seem kind of distracted today," Emma said. And several other students nodded in agreement. Marcus forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just have a lot on my mind. Let's get back to the lesson." We were discussing chord progressions, but even as he tried to engage with the material, his mind kept drifting. What was Rachel saying to Jake right now? How was Jake reacting? Would their friendship survive this? The questions swirled endlessly, making it impossible to concentrate. Lunchtime finally arrived, and Marcus retreated to his small office tucked away in the music wing of the school. He had brought a sandwich from home but had no appetite. Instead, he sat at his desk staring at his phone, willing it to ring or buzz with some kind of news. The silence was deafening. Marcus decided to text Jasmine just to check in. "Hey, have you heard anything from Rachel about her lunch with Jake?" The response came quickly. "Not yet. She said she'd call me afterward. I'm going crazy waiting. How are you holding up?" "About the same," Marcus typed back. "Can't focus on anything. Keep thinking about worst-case scenarios." "Me too," Jasmine replied. "But we have to trust that everything will work out. Whatever happens, we face it together, remember?" Marcus smiled at his phone. "Together," he confirmed. The afternoon dragged on painfully. Marcus had 2 more classes, both of which passed in a blur. He was so distracted that he accidentally played the wrong track during his jazz appreciation class, putting on Duke Ellington instead of Louis Armstrong. The students noticed immediately, of course, and he had to laugh it off, claiming he was testing their attention to detail. By the time the final bell rang at 3:15, Marcus felt utterly drained. He packed up his things quickly, desperate to get home where he could worry in private without having to maintain a professional facade. As he walked to his car, his phone finally rang. Jake's name appeared on the screen. Marcus's stomach lurched. This was it, the moment of truth he considered not answering, letting it go to voicemail so he could prepare himself. But that was cowardly, whatever Jake had to say. Marcus needed to face it head-on. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello? Marcus." Jake's voice sounded strange, not angry exactly, but definitely not his usual jovial tone. "We need to talk. Can you meet me at O'Malley's in half an hour?" O'Malley's was their usual spot, a sports bar downtown where they watched games and caught up over beers. The fact that Jake wanted to meet there instead of just having this conversation over the phone seemed significant. Marcus wasn't sure if it was a good or bad sign. "Yeah, I can be there," Marcus said. "Jake, listen. Save it for when we're face to face." Jake interrupted, not unkindly. "See you soon." The line went dead. Marcus sat in his car for a moment, his hands gripping the steering wheel. This could go a dozen different ways. Jake could be furious, hurt, understanding, or some combination of all 3. There was no way to predict it. He texted Jasmine quickly. "Jake just called. Meeting him at O'Malley's in 30 minutes, wish me luck." "You've got this," she replied immediately. "Call me after, no matter what happens, I'm here." The drive to O'Malley's felt both too long and too short. Marcus's mind raced through possible conversation scenarios, rehearsing what he would say, how he would explain himself. But every imagined dialogue ended differently, some with Jake understanding and supportive, others with their friendship irreparably damaged. He arrived at the bar 10 minutes early and grabbed a booth in the back, away from the loud sports fans clustered around the television screens showing various games. The waitress, a woman named Donna who had been working there for years and knew both Marcus and Jake well, came over with a sympathetic smile. "Rough day, hun?" she asked. "You have no idea," Marcus replied. "Just water for now. Please, I'm waiting for someone." "You got it," Donna said, patting his shoulder before walking away. Marcus sat in the booth, his leg bouncing nervously under the table. The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness. Finally, at exactly 4 p.m., Jake walked through the door. Marcus had known Jake for 5 years, ever since they had both volunteered at the community center's after-school program. Jake worked in marketing but spent his free time mentoring kids, teaching them basketball and life skills. He was a good guy, loyal, honest, the kind of friend everyone wanted in their corner. Jake spotted Marcus and walked over, his expression unreadable. He slid into the booth across from Marcus, and for a long moment neither of them spoke, so Jake finally said, "Rachel told me everything." Marcus nodded. "I figured she would, Jake, I want you to know." Jake held up a hand. "Let me go first, okay? I've been processing this all afternoon and I need to get it out." "Okay," Marcus agreed, bracing himself. Jake leaned back in the booth, his arms crossed. "When Rachel called me this morning and asked to meet for lunch, I thought maybe she wanted to reschedule the date with you. I figured you two would finally get a chance to meet properly. I was excited about it. I really thought you guys would click." Marcus listened, not interrupting, so imagine my surprise. Jake continued, "When instead of talking about rescheduling, Rachel tells me that you and her sister Jasmine have developed feelings for each other, that you've already gone on a date, that you came to her apartment yesterday to confess everything." "It wasn't exactly a date," Marcus interjected. "We just had coffee and—" "Marcus," Jake said, his voice firm, "I'm not done." Marcus fell silent. "At first I was angry," Jake admitted. "I felt like you had gone behind my back, like you had taken advantage of a situation. I set you up with Rachel because I genuinely thought you two would be good together. And instead you end up falling for her sister?" It felt like a betrayal. Marcus felt his heart sinking. This was going exactly as he had feared, but then, Jake said, his expression softening slightly, "Rachel explained the whole situation to me. She told me how Jasmine showed up at the restaurant to deliver the message, how you two talked and connected, She told me that you and Jasmine came to her together to be honest before anything serious happened between you. And you know what? That changed things for me. Marcus looked up, a flicker of hope igniting. It did? Yeah, it did, Jake confirmed. Because here's the thing. Marcus, I know you. I've known you for 5 years. You're not the kind of guy who plays games or deliberately hurts people. If you developed feelings for Jasmine, it wasn't calculated or manipulative, it just happened. And the fact that you were honest about it, that you didn't sneak around or lie, that means something. I never wanted to hurt anyone, Marcus said earnestly. Especially not Rachel, and definitely not you. You're my best friend, Jake. Your opinion matters to me. I know, Jake said. And that's why I'm not going to let this ruin our friendship. Am I disappointed that things didn't work out with Rachel the way I planned? Sure. But I'm also mature enough to recognize that you can't force connections between people. Chemistry either exists or it doesn't. And apparently it existed between you and Jasmine. Marcus felt relief wash over him. So we're okay? We're okay, Jake confirmed, then added with a slight smile. But you owe me big time. I spent weeks convincing Rachel to give this blind date thing a try. And now I have to live with the fact that my matchmaking skills inadvertently led to you dating her sister instead. Marcus laughed, the tension finally breaking. I'm sorry for messing up your carefully laid plans. Yeah, well, life has a funny way of doing that, Jake said. Then his expression turned serious again. But Marcus, I need you to understand something. Jasmine isn't just Rachel's sister. I've known her for years, too. Since she was barely out of her teens, she's been through some difficult times. Relationships that didn't treat her well, struggles with confidence and self-worth. If you're going to pursue this thing with her, you need to be all in. No half measures, no uncertainty. She deserves someone who's going to commit completely. I understand, Marcus said solemnly, and I promise you. I'm serious about this, about her. I know it seems fast, and I know the circumstances are unusual, but what I feel for Jasmine is real, more real than anything I've felt in a long time. Jake studied him for a moment, then nodded. I believe you, and honestly, Rachel said the same thing. She told me that despite everything, she could see that your feelings for Jasmine were genuine. That's why she's trying to be understanding about this whole situation. Rachel has been incredibly gracious, Marcus agreed. More than I probably deserve. She's a good person, Jake said, and there was fondness in his voice. That's why we stayed friends after our breakup. We both recognized that sometimes people are better as friends than as romantic partners. Maybe the same is true for her and you. Maybe you were never meant to be together romantically, but through this situation, you've gained connections to two important people, Jasmine and Rachel. I never thought about it that way, Marcus admitted. Donna returned to their table. You boys ready to order? Or are you just going to sit here looking serious all afternoon? Jake grinned. 2 beers, Donna, whatever you've got on tap. Coming right up, she said with a wink. As they waited for their drinks, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Jake told Marcus about a project at work. Marcus shared a funny story about one of his students accidentally breaking a clarinet during class. The tension that had filled the air when Jake first arrived had dissipated, replaced by the easy camaraderie that had always defined their friendship. When the beers arrived, Jake raised his glass. 2 unexpected outcomes, he toasted. Marcus clinked his glass against Jake's. 2 unexpected outcomes, he echoed. They drank, and Marcus felt like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Jake's approval meant more to him than he had realized. These past few days, worrying about how Jake would react, had been eating at him constantly. Now, with that worry resolved, he could finally breathe. So when do I get to hang out with you and Jasmine together? Jake asked. Sarah's been dying to meet her. Rachel's told her all about her sister, and now with this new development, Sarah's curiosity is through the roof. Sarah knows too? Marcus asked. Of course she knows, Jake laughed. You think I could keep something this interesting from my girlfriend? She's already planning a double date? Marcus smiled. Well, Jasmine and I are taking things slow, but I'm sure we can arrange something soon. Good, Jake said, because honestly, I'm curious to see you two together. Rachel said there was definitely chemistry when you came to her apartment. I want to witness this connection that was strong enough to turn my matchmaking plan completely upside down. They spent another hour at O'Malley's, talking and laughing like they always did. By the time they left, Marcus felt like things were going to be okay. Not perfect, perhaps, but okay. The important relationships in his life. His friendship with Jake, his budding connection with Jasmine, even his unexpected bond with Rachel, all seemed to be surviving this complicated situation. As Marcus drove home, his phone rang. Jasmine's name appeared on the screen, and he answered using his car's Bluetooth. "Hey," he said, unable to keep the smile out of his voice. "Hey yourself," Jasmine replied. "So, how did it go with Jake?" "I've been on pins and needles all afternoon." "It went well," Marcus reported, "really well. Actually, he was upset at first, but once he understood the whole situation, he came around. He gave us his blessing, essentially." "Oh, thank God," Jasmine breathed. "Rachel called me after her lunch with him. She said she thought he would be okay. But I was still worried. We're good," Marcus assured her. "In fact, he wants to arrange a double date. Him and Sarah with us, apparently. Sarah is dying to meet you. I'd like that," Jasmine said warmly. "It feels good to not have to hide or feel guilty. To know that the people who matter to us are supportive." "It does," Marcus agreed. "Hey, are you free tonight? I was thinking maybe we could grab dinner. Nothing fancy, just something casual. I feel like we deserve to celebrate surviving the most stressful weekend of our lives." Jasmine laughed, that beautiful sound that made Marcus's heart skip. "I'd love that. There's a great Thai place near my apartment. Best pad Thai in the city." "Perfect," Marcus said. "I'll pick you up at 7. "It's a date," Jasmine said, then paused. "An actual date this time. Not a stand-in date or a coffee meeting to discuss complicated feelings. A real, honest-to-goodness date." "The first of many, I hope," Marcus replied. "Me too," Jasmine said softly. After they hung up, Marcus drove the rest of the way home with a grin on his face. He had a few hours before he needed to pick up Jasmine. Enough time to shower, change into something nice, and maybe even clean his apartment a bit in case she wanted to come back after dinner. As he pulled into his parking space, Marcus reflected on how dramatically his life had changed in just over a week. One failed blind date had somehow led to the most authentic connection he had experienced in years. It hadn't been easy. There had been difficult conversations, hurt feelings, and moments when he wasn't sure if pursuing these feelings was worth the potential cost. But sitting here now with Jake's friendship intact, Rachel's understanding secured, and a real date with Jasmine on the horizon, Marcus knew without a doubt that it had all been worth it. Sometimes, he thought as he climbed the stairs to his apartment, the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes you have to be willing to take risks, to be honest even when it's uncomfortable, to follow your heart even when logic suggests you shouldn't. Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from Jasmine. "Can't wait for tonight." Followed by a smiley face emoji, he replied immediately. "Same here." As Marcus started getting ready for his date, he put on one of his favorite jazz records, John Coltrane's A Love Supreme. The music filled his apartment, smooth and soulful, matching his mood perfectly. He thought about fate, about timing, about how a single moment can change the trajectory of your entire life. If Rachel hadn't had that emergency with her mother, if Jasmine hadn't decided to deliver the message in person, if Marcus had left the restaurant before Jasmine arrived, none of this would have happened. They would have remained strangers, passing through each other's lives without ever connecting. But they hadn't remained strangers. They had found each other against all odds, in the most improbable of circumstances. Jasmine laughed. "You had this planned all along." "Maybe," Marcus admitted with a grin. "Come on, let's go, I'll drive." The drive to Bella Rosa brought back a flood of memories. Marcus remembered sitting alone at that table, checking his watch repeatedly, feeling foolish and disappointed. He never could have imagined then that the night would lead to this, to Jasmine, to a relationship that had brought more joy into his life than he thought possible. When they arrived at the restaurant, Marcus was struck by how familiar it all felt. The same elegant decor, the same soft lighting, even the same hostess at the front desk. She led them to a table, and Marcus was amused to see it was in the same corner where he had sat that fateful night. "Is this okay?" the hostess asked. "It's perfect," Marcus assured her. Once they were seated and had ordered drinks, Jasmine reached across the table and took Marcus's hand. "This feels surreal," she said. "Being back here, I keep thinking about that night. How nervous I was walking over to your table. How I had no idea that my life was about to change completely." "Mine too," Marcus agreed. "I was so angry when you first sat down, I thought maybe it was a prank, or that you were going to tell me Rachel had decided she wasn't interested at all. I never expected you to say you were my date." I still can't believe I had the courage to do that, Jasmine said, shaking her head. It was so unlike me. I'm usually cautious, overthinking everything before I act. But something about seeing you there, something just told me I needed to stay. To get to know you. I'm glad you listened to that something, Marcus said, squeezing her hand. Their waiter approached, and Marcus was startled to recognize him. It was the same young man with slicked back hair who had served him that night. Good evening, the waiter said, then paused, recognition flickering across his face. Wait, haven't you been here before? I remember you. You were waiting for someone who never showed up. Marcus and Jasmine exchanged glances. Then both started laughing. Actually, Jasmine said, I showed up. Just not in the way anyone expected. The waiter looked confused. So Marcus explained, it's a long story, but the short version is that my blind date couldn't make it. And this wonderful woman, who happens to be her sister, came to explain. We ended up having dinner together instead. And now, 6 months later, here we are. The waiter's face lit up with understanding. That's incredible, so you two ended up together? That's like something out of a movie. It does feel that way sometimes, Jasmine agreed, after the waiter left to put in their order. Jasmine leaned forward, her expression turning more serious. Marcus, can I ask you something? Of course, he replied. Anything. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Rachel had made it to that date? Jasmine asked. Do you ever think about the alternate version of events where she showed up and you two hit it off? Marcus considered the question carefully. He had thought about this occasionally over the past months, wondering about the path not taken. Honestly, yes, I've wondered, he admitted, but not in a wistful way, more in a curious philosophical way, like thinking about how one small change in circumstances can completely alter the course of your life. And, Jasmine prompted, and I genuinely believe that Rachel and I wouldn't have worked out, Marcus continued, not because there's anything wrong with her. She's incredible. But because the connection I feel with you, it's not something that can be replicated or substituted. We fit together in a way that goes beyond compatibility on paper. When I'm with you, I feel like I'm the best version of myself. You challenge me, inspire me, make me laugh, support my dreams. I don't think I would have felt that with Rachel. No matter how perfect Jake thought we were for each other, Jasmine's eyes were glistening. I feel the same way, she said softly. And I used to feel so guilty about that, like I was being disloyal to Rachel by being grateful that she missed the date. But I've come to accept that sometimes things happen the way they're supposed to, not in a mystical, predetermined fate kind of way, but in a way where circumstances align to bring the right people together at the right time. Their food arrived, and they ate slowly, savoring both the meal and the conversation. They talked about everything: upcoming plans, dreams for the future, funny stories from work. The ease between them had only grown over the months, and Marcus found himself thinking, not for the first time, that he wanted this feeling to last forever. After dinner, as they were finishing dessert, Marcus felt his pocket where he had been carrying a small box for the past 2 weeks. He had been waiting for the right moment, and something about being back at Bella Rosa, where their story had begun, felt perfect. Jasmine, he said, his heart suddenly pounding. There's something I want to talk to you about. She looked up from her tiramisu, sensing the shift in his tone. Okay, Marcus took a deep breath. These past 6 months have been the happiest of my life. Every day with you feels like a gift. You've brought so much light and love into my world, and I can't imagine my future without you in it. Jasmine's hand moved to her mouth, her eyes widening as she realized what might be happening. I know 6 months isn't a long time in the grand scheme of things, Marcus continued, pulling the small box from his pocket. But when you know, you know. And I know that I want to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you make me. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring, a small diamond set in white gold. Jasmine Williams, will you marry me? Tears were streaming down Jasmine's face now, and she nodded vigorously before finding her voice. Yes, she managed to say. Yes, of course. Yes. Marcus stood and moved around the table. Sliding the ring onto her finger, it fit perfectly. He pulled her up into his arms and they kissed, right there in the middle of Bella Rosa, as other diners noticed and began to applaud. When they finally pulled apart, both of them laughing and crying at the same time, Jasmine said, I can't believe you proposed here, at the same restaurant where we met. This is perfect. I wanted it to be meaningful. Marcus said. This place started everything. It seemed right that it should be part of this moment, too. Their waiter returned, grinning widely. I take it congratulations are in order? They definitely are, Jasmine said, holding up her hand to show off the ring. Dessert is on the house, the waiter announced. We love a good love story here. As they left the restaurant an hour later, walking hand in hand through the Chicago streets, Marcus felt overwhelmed with gratitude. He thought about that night 6 months ago, how disappointed and foolish he had felt, sitting alone at that table. He could never have predicted then that the emptiness of that moment would lead to such fullness now. Should we call people? Jasmine asked. Tell them the news? Let's wait until tomorrow, Marcus suggested. Tonight I just want it to be us. We can deal with the excitement and congratulations and planning later. For now, let's just enjoy this. I like that idea, Jasmine agreed. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. Eventually, they ended up at the lakefront, where they sat on a bench overlooking the water. The city lights reflected on the dark surface, creating a mirror of stars. Can I tell you something? Jasmine said, leaning her head on Marcus's shoulder. Always, he replied. That night at the restaurant, when I first saw you sitting there alone, before I even went over to your table, I felt something, she confessed. It was like recognition, even though we had never met. Like some part of me knew that you were going to be important in my life. Does that sound crazy? Not at all, Marcus said. I felt something too the moment you sat down. Even when I was confused and didn't understand what was happening, there was this pull toward you, this sense that everything was shifting, changing in ways I couldn't predict but somehow knew I needed. I love you, Jasmine said simply. I love you too, Marcus replied. More than I ever thought I could love anyone. They sat there for a long time, watching the water and talking about their future together, where they would live, whether they wanted children, what kind of wedding they wanted. The conversation flowed easily, naturally, the way everything between them always had. Eventually, the cold drove them back to Marcus's car. As he drove Jasmine home, she kept looking at her ring, holding her hand up to catch the light from passing street lamps. I still can't believe this is real, she kept saying. When they arrived at her apartment, Marcus walked her to the door. I'll pick you up tomorrow at noon, he said. We can go tell everyone together. Starting with Rachel. She's going to be so excited, Jasmine predicted. She told me last month that she was surprised you hadn't proposed yet. She said it was obvious to everyone how we felt about each other. Smart woman, your sister, Marcus said with a smile. They kissed goodnight, a long, sweet kiss that promised forever. As Marcus drove home, he couldn't stop smiling. His face actually hurt from grinning so much, but he didn't care. When he finally got home and collapsed into bed, exhausted but exhilarated, Marcus pulled out his phone and looked at the photos from dinner. The waiter had offered to take several pictures of them, before and after the proposal. In every single one, they looked radiantly happy. Marcus set one of the photos as his phone's wallpaper, then plugged it in to charge as he lay in the darkness, waiting for sleep to come. He thought about the unexpected ways life unfolds. A year ago, he had been lonely, going through the motions, wondering if he would ever find real connection. 6 months ago, he had been stood up on a blind date, feeling like a fool, and now he was engaged to the most incredible woman he had ever met, planning a future filled with love and possibility. The path hadn't been straightforward. There had been complications, difficult conversations, moments of doubt and fear, but every challenge had been worth it. Every uncomfortable moment had led to something beautiful. Marcus thought about Jake's matchmaking attempt, about Rachel's emergency with her mother, about Jasmine's decision to stay at the restaurant that night. If any single element had been different, they might never have found each other. But somehow, against all odds, everything had aligned perfectly. Maybe it was fate, maybe it was coincidence, maybe it was just dumb luck. Marcus didn't know. And ultimately, he didn't care. All that mattered was that he had found Jasmine, and she had found him, and together they were building something real and lasting. As sleep finally began to pull him under, Marcus's last conscious thought was one of profound gratitude. Gratitude for blind dates that fall through, for sisters who show up in their place, for the courage to be honest even when it's scary, for second chances and new beginnings. Tomorrow would bring its own adventures, telling family and friends, starting to plan a wedding, continuing to build their life together. But tonight, Marcus fell asleep with a smile on his face. dreaming of the future he and Jasmine would create. A future that had started with an empty chair and a stranger who became everything. The blind date had been empty, until the waitress walked over and said she was his date. And in that moment, though neither of them knew it yet, everything changed. Sometimes the best love stories are the ones that begin with the wrong person not showing up. Because when the right person arrives, even in the most unexpected way, you know without a doubt that you've found something worth keeping. And Marcus had definitely found that with Jasmine, their story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But the foundation they had built, based on honesty, courage, and genuine connection, would carry them through whatever came next. As the Chicago night settled into deep darkness outside his window, Marcus slept peacefully, a man who had found his home in another person's heart. And somewhere across the city, Jasmine lay awake looking at her ring, thinking the exact same thing. They had found each other against all odds, and neither of them would ever take that gift for granted. The end, or rather the beginning,